those. So it would be anytime we would administer that drug. Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, anyone would cover that. So
Okay, so this is just what you would bill to the insurance?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The most expensive one, which is that, I gotta scroll down, it's like a cyanide kit, I think is what it's listed as. But I don't know if that's the one
Yeah.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
So that is a very, the time, I don't know that if we do one of those a year, about 8,000 calls, that's a lot. Yeah. Unfortunately, more of them expire in our stock than they do used, but you need to have them. Yeah.
Bonfires, really quickly, is this like to have a fire outside?
Yeah, so this would be in a sanctioned event. Most communities don't allow bonfires on private property. So this would be, I want to have a bonfire at a sanctioned event. We do certain exemptions on those. It depends what the planning side of that is. There's some bonfires are easy to work with people, and then some people want to have 100 by 100 foot piles of stuff burned. That's more what we get involved with this kind of things.
Trustee Minton.
I should probably know the answer to this, but are you all paramedic at this point?
So 40% of our staff is paramedic. The rest of the staff is what they call EMT basic. So it's 2 levels of care. So if we do called a tiered system, it's not uncommon in a lot of places where if you have too many paramedics, you end up with it's like having a doctor treat every patient they see that walks in from, you don't have any, if you think of healthcare, you don't have any nurses, you don't have any techs, you don't have all that. So we try to balance the number of paramedics to make sure they can keep up their skills that they do, because they don't get to do it every day.
So do you staff an ambulance with a paramedic and an EMT basic, or?
So we have to do 2 paramedics in Milwaukee County. That's a state statute.
Hmm,
Yeah, so 2 paramedics on paramedic ambulances, and there's a basic life support ambulance.
2 different.
Those are 2 EMTs.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anyone else have any questions? I'll move resolution 2018-22, approving the 2019 North Shore Fire Department fees for service schedule.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Oh, it's a roll call vote.
Trustee Linda.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee McKay. Aye. President Rosen.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Chief. I'll see you later, or?
I wasn't
No?
gonna stay.
Oh, no, you're not staying. Okay. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Unless you want me to stay.
Don't you enjoy our meeting?
I do. I already did Brown Deer tonight, so that's not good.
Hi, Tyler. Our next order of business is to consider the production and design services for Shorewood today.
Yeah, good evening. I have Paul Wheeler here, who's the editor-in-chief of Shorewood today currently, who's part of the MD Marketing Solutions contract. And then Jennifer Anderson is our helps write village content, as well as the bid as well. So she's in attendance today as well. We put this under special order of business because we just want to make sure to have a rep here that would be able to answer some questions on the current Shorewood today. We put this out to RFP based on the purchasing policy. We ended up getting 3 proposals back, which I included all those proposals in your packet. There's actually 2 different parts of this. There's the production and design services. That's the part that MD Marketing Solutions currently does. And then there's printing aspect. So I'm just going to focus the first part on the printing aspect. The 3 proposals that we received, one is our current provider, MD Marketing Solutions. The second is Bar Caprio, who actually used to do it back in the late 2000s for a number of years. She currently does Mequon Beef Fills as well as Oak Creeks. And then Express News, who currently does Brown Deer. I think we reached out to 3 others that ended up not submitting a proposal. Basically, if you look through the cost assessment, it basically comes down to a subsidy that's provided by each of the community partners. And I just wanted to take a moment to highlight the structure, especially Trustee Warren and Trustee Carpenter. I don't know if we've ever had something that came through the Marketing Leadership Committee, so I thought this would be just a nice refresher for all. So when marketing was established a few years ago, there was a committee set in place called the Marketing Leadership Committee that had representatives from 4 of the community partners: the village, the school district, the business improvement district, and the CDA. And the reason why that was set up was because if there was anything budgetarily related or anything like an overall vision, for instance, that needed to be adopted, they did not want to take that to all 4 governing bodies. Instead, they wanted to have an overall committee that had representatives for each committee meet and approve. So anything that's marketing communications related that impacts all 4 of those partners typically go to this committee, with Shorewood today being kind of a prime example of that. The village board is the only governing body that, like for Shorewood today, for instance, that actually has separate approval, and that's because we're the fiscal agent for Shorewood today. So the school district, the BID, and the CDA, well, the CDA might be a little different, but the BID and the school district don't, this contract does not go to their meetings for approval. It comes to your approval though as the fiscal agent of Shorewood today. So the Marketing Leadership Committee reviewed the proposals that came in and recommended based on experience, quality. I kind of listed out an RFP that was submitted to you all a few months ago, kind of the or what was kind of what we were looking for. But the committee recommended MB Marketing Solutions in order to continue providing services, and we're proposing a 3-year agreement for that. I'll get into the printing later, but basically because of some cost savings that we were able to do through the RFP process, we were able to get the community partnership subsidy down from $5,800 to $4,475. So that would be the village contribution, and that's what we currently have in the proposed budget for 2019.
Tyler, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you mind me finish and then?
I just have 2 more statements, if you mind me just finishing. Express News did not have a subsidy at all. They would do it for, basically advertising would cost those, would cover all the costs, and then Bar Procure Marketing Design, it would be about a $2,000 subsidy, so those were both lower subsidies. The committee still recommended MB Marketing Solutions because of the current experience and the current product that they deliver. They felt the difference between a $4,400 and a $2,000 subsidy wasn't a significant amount of difference enough to change that partnership. The only last point I want to make is that we always have Shorewood Today as part of the community survey that goes out to residents. And this is always voted as one of the top 2 communication strategies that we are currently executing as far as level of satisfaction. So I think it's certainly something that we want to maintain and continue doing based on survey results from residents.
Oh, okay. So just, I always get confused every year, because every year, also to add to the history, Trustee Menta and I have wanted to be cost conscious and have asked for us to put into the RFP ways to reduce the cost, the taxpayer subsidy into the magazine. And this year we're actually seeing having to do that with landscaping and a bunch of stuff. So when you say the only authority we have tonight is as the fiscal agent for the group that's already kind of approved this, we also, I'm just trying to figure it out, we have budget authority.
Yep.
And we haven't authorized a budget for 2019, correct?
Correct.
So if we, so I put this on the list, and I'm just wondering if we approve tonight as the fiscal agent, does that mean that we're approving as the Village of Shorewood that budget amount?
Most likely, yes, that would be correct.
Okay, so it's not just that we're approving it as the fiscal.
Right, because we have we have the total professional fees built in to the service agreement in that. So, technically, if you wanted to tell, MB Marketing Solutions, after you have your budget discussion, if you want to tell them in the marketing committee that, you ended up changing the budget to X, we could always go back to amend the agreement, but that would probably be more work, so.
So it'd be better to talk about the issues tonight.
That's what I
Okay.
would propose, yes.
Okay. Just a minute.
Can you summarize the RFP and what you put in the RFP in terms of, options in terms of funding and frequency and, other ways of
Yes.
organizing?
I'd be happy to do
Can you
that.
describe the RFP to us?
Great question. RFP, we asked to put together costs for 4 times a year and 6 times a year. I think we've heard, from some of you board members and some residents that they would like more frequent communication. And sometimes quarterly, it's a little difficult to get the message out. Frankly, or unfortunately, none of the proposals that came back offered a proposal for 6. All of them said that that would be too much. Typically, it takes at least 2 months, if not a little longer, to put together one magazine. So they said for that reason, 6 would just be, it would be too tight of a timeline. So we ended up not receiving any quote or cost for that. I'm sorry, what was the other part of that question?
About the subsidy, like different options. on
Oh, we
subsidy.
also asked some individuals that if there wasn't, or we asked each proposal that if there wasn't, if the municipality didn't subsidize, what would that look like? And I don't, Paula, you can speak, but I'll try to speak because I know I talked to Michelle for a bit. They ended up taking a look at, what that would mean. It would be like a 33% increase in advertising. And they didn't want to have that big of a jump in advertising. The only other thing that you could potentially change is the content to advertisement ratio, which is right now 40% advertising, 60% content. So you could adjust that as well. But I think that was something that I know especially the committee did not want to touch, because if you adjust that anymore, it becomes very ad heavy, which some would already argue it already is, so they didn't want to adjust that anymore. So that was another thing that was looked at. MB Marketing Solutions ended up not proposing a bid for if it was a 0 subsidy document or product.
What about like a reduced subsidy? Anything that would reduce our costs in there that we could change?
We didn't receive anything in that other than what's outlined to you tonight. Paula, after I'm done talking, if you want to address any more of that, you can, but that was what we received from us. Same thing, talking with Caprio Marketing Design, I think she felt that there needs to be some subsidy in there to show that there's a partnership. It's very similar to kind of what I mentioned with 4th of July, that we are a partner, and to show that partner that we should provide something to illustrate that. So that's why she ended up putting like $500 an issue, which would be about $2,000 for the year for each partner.
Or that in planning too, yes, trustee Moore.
Thank you for your comments, and I think this is an excellent publication. I just wanted to put a fine point on this. So essentially what we're saying is that if we were going lower subsidy or no subsidy, the only real difference in the magazine is that we essentially have a lot more marketing than the magazine, and it would look like more like a marketing piece than a...
Yeah, if you lower the partner contribution, what would happen, so let's say tonight you wanted to do that. So let's go through that scenario for a second. What I would probably propose is to set up another marketing leadership committee, because I would have to let the other 3 partners know that that's what the village board as the fiscal agent is asking. And I don't know what the other 3 partners will end up saying. I think it's important that we all pay the same amount, showing that we're equal partners, but.
And I'm not advocating for that,
Okay.
I'm just clarifying at this point.
Yes, correct. So that would be, just know that's one thing in the process that we would have to do, if you want to change the 4,475, and then if we change that, it would be MB Marketing Solutions. What they would have to do is figure out A, do we lower professional fees, B, do we increase advertising rates, or C, do we change the ad to content ratio? Those are really the 3 options that you have at this point.
So, were you all done, trustee Warren?
I am done.
Okay, so just to be clear, when I read over Ms. Capriles, is that how you pronounce her name?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed
That's how I pronounce it.
I never get it right, so
Yeah.
names are hard for me. But that had a lot of flexibility built into it other than, so I think it's been, this year's a very tough year fiscally, and I've seen kind of leading up, we knew that it was gonna happen at some point. And every dime counts, as we see as we're going through our budget process. So I was very impressed with the other response, and the reason why was there were things such as fixed costs, like not to exceed, and if we needed more hours, you know, that's just the fixed cost, and it was lower. It was the weight of the paper. We were getting options about, you know, like really trying to think of the ways that we can help the village and our partners. We're all struggling, come up with cost-saving measures. Both of them, I agree. Those two proposals said, you know, we don't think we should advertise, you know, the advertisement to text rate is probably correct, which I don't disagree with, but the rate of advertisements, I mean, we're half of Whitefish Bay's rate, and it is a paper. I mean, it's not even half as glossy or, so what I always go back to